Applications with geometric problems and consecutive numbers. Consecutive means in order. They follow right after each other, such as 1, 2, 3. That's consecutive. 10, 11, 12. Those are consecutive numbers. Okay, so let's look at the first example. The shape that we're dealing with is a rectangle. So I'm just going to sketch a rectangle so I have a visual. It says the width of a rectangle is 6 meters less than its length. So if this is the length, how would I express the width?
Y.
X minus 6, exactly, because the width is 6 meters less. Okay, so let's write what this means. The length, just represented as X. Your width is X minus 6. Okay, it says the area of the rectangle is 112 meters squared. So we're going to find the dimensions of this rectangle, meaning we need to find what X is. So if you remember, to find the area of a rectangle, you do the length times the width. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Your length is X. Multiply it by the width, X minus 6, and that should equal 112. We are going to solve for X. Let's distribute. X times X, that's X squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6X. Now I'm going to move 112 to this side so that I can have a quadratic equation. Now we can solve that. We can factor it. So guys, I need two numbers that will multiply to negative 112, but add to negative 6. I'm going to pause here and let you guys figure out those two numbers. Very good. Thank you. So we figured out that it's negative 8. And what was the other number? 14. Okay, so that means this is X minus 8 times X plus 14 equals, sorry. This should be a positive 8 and a negative 14. So these are my factors. The reason why is because 8 times negative 14 is negative 12. 8 minus 14 is negative 6. So those are my two values, and we put them as factors in our parentheses. What do you guys think the next step is? Yes, I'm going to equal it to 0 and solve. So I have X plus 8 equals 0, and X minus 14 equals 0. And we're going to solve it. We get X is negative 8 for one option. And we get X is 14 for the other option. So guys, what do you think my X value should be? Why are y'all not picking negative 8? Exactly. It doesn't make sense for your length to be a negative value, right? We can't have a negative length. So X is 14. So guys, if we replace our X values, we can figure out the dimension. We just said that X is 14. So guys, that means my length is 14. What is my width? There we go. Because 14 minus 6 is 8. So this rectangle is 14 by 8 meters. 1 second. So your length is 14 meters and your width is 8 meters. Okay, so we have another rectangle. This is my rectangle. I know that the area is 300. That's what it says right here. It's 300 feet squared. The area of the rectangle is 300 feet squared. Now, it says the length of the rectangle the length of the rectangle is 1 foot more than twice its width. I'm going to pause here. I want you to try to set up the equation. Okay, so it says the length of a rectangle is 1 more than twice its width. Well, twice the width is just 2W, right? And then you add 1. And then you just have your width. So say this is the width, and the length is just 2 times the width plus 1. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, and I'm just going to replace my W's with X's. Aren't we used to using X's? Okay, so I'll just use X's. I'll use X's. Okay, is that okay, guys? All right, so I'm going to write that over here. The width is X, and the length, just like it says in this above problem, it says the length is 1 more, that means you need to add 1, then twice the width. So 2 times the width, and then 1 more than that. That's how we figured that out. Okay, so let's go ahead and set it up again. Remember, to get the area, you do length times width. So I'm going to do X times 2X plus 1, and my area is 300. We're going to distribute. This will be 2X squared plus X equals 300. Now, move the 300 to the other side. We get 2X squared plus X minus 300 equals 0. I'm going to do an eye chart. Do you guys know what will go on the top?
Negative 600.
Yes, negative 300 times 2, which is negative 600. When your A value is not 1, you have to multiply. So 2 times negative 30 is negative 300 is negative 600. I'm going to give you a hint. One of your numbers is 25. What is the other number? Negative 24. So if you multiply these two numbers, you'll get negative 600, and 25 minus 24 is 1. So those are my two numbers. So we're going to go ahead and factor 2x squared plus 25x minus 24x minus 300. What can both of these be divided by? Just an x. So x goes on the outside, and I'm left with 2x plus 25. Now this one in the back, they can both be divided by a negative 2. I'm sorry, a negative 12 actually. That would be bigger. Negative 24 divided by a negative 12. Yep, 2x. Plus negative 300 divided by negative 12 is a positive 25. Now notice what's in parentheses matches. If they match, that means we did it correctly. If those were not the same, that means we made a mistake. But luckily they're the same, so I'm going to put what's the same in one parenthesis. What is on the outside will go in another parenthesis. Okay, so those are my factors. What do I do to solve?
Equal to 0.
Yes, exactly. We're going to equal it to 0 and solve. So I have x minus 12 equal to 0, and I'll solve it. I get x equals 12. The other one is 2x plus 25 equals 0. So I'm going to subtract 25. I get 2x equals negative 25. Guys, do I want a negative answer? Okay, so I already know this is not it. I'm going to get negative 12.5. We don't want negatives. So this is my x value. So that means I found the width. So I'm going to replace this x on my box with a 12, because we just said x is 12. and replace this x with the 12. So guys, what's the length of my box? Yep. So that means my width is 12, my length is 25. And let's look at the original word problem. It says the length of the rectangle is 1 more than twice the width. What's twice the width? And then what's 1 more than that? There you go. Twice the width would be 24, and 1 more than that is 25. So these numbers make sense in our word problem. Number 3, you have the dimensions of a rectangle. It really doesn't matter which one you choose as length and width. They didn't specify. You're going to do the area is 65 inches squared. One side of the rectangle is x plus 6. I'll choose the longer side for that one, and then x minus 2 is the other side. So the way that you find area is you multiply length times width. So let's do that. X minus 2 times x plus 6 should give me 65. So you distribute. Six x minus 2x is 4x. Now we're going to move the 65 to this side, so it'll be x squared plus 4x minus 12 minus a 65. So this simplifies to x squared plus 4x minus 77. So we're going to do an eye chart. Two numbers that multiply to negative 77 but add to 4 are 11 and negative 7. So those are your factors, x plus 11 and x minus 7. So then, guys, when you solve this, what x values do you get? Yep, you get 7 and negative 11. Which one should you pick since we're talking about length and width? 7. Okay, so plug it into right here, guys. What is this width?
5.
5, because 7 minus 2, you get 5. So that's one dimension. What about this one? What will you get? 7 plus 6, you get 13. So that means the dimensions of the rectangle are 5 inches and 13 inches. Those are the dimensions of your rectangle. Next problem, it says you have a triangle. So guys, let me remind you what the formula for a triangle is. The area for a triangle is base times the height divided by 2. So go ahead and set up your equation and solve. Okay, the base of a triangle is 7 less than twice the height. That's twice the height, and we want 7 less than that. Okay, so that's what the base is. The base of a triangle is 7 less than twice the height. So you want twice the height, and you want to take away 7 from it. Does that make sense, guys? Okay, now instead of using h, I'm going to use an x. So I know the base is going to be 2x minus 7, and then this is my height is just x, because we did twice the height minus 7 to get the base. Are those okay? All right. If that confused you, let me erase these x's. We said the base is twice the height and minus 7, right? And this is your height? Does everyone understand my picture? Okay, now I'm just going to replace these h's with x's so that we're dealing with what we're used to. Okay, so let's use the formula. Area of a triangle is the base times height. So I'm just going to multiply those together. And that should give me 102. Oh, don't forget, divide by 2. Base times height divided by 2. All right, so what I'm going to do is multiply both sides by 2, and those cancel out. Now I'm left with x times 2x minus 7 equals 204.
Okay, so all the way no.
Now distribute. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times -7 is -7x, and this is equal to 204. You need to move 204 to the other side so that we get a quadratic equation, which we can then factor. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do A times C again. So 2 times -204 is -408. And I need two numbers that multiply to -408 and add to -7. All right, guys. Two numbers that multiply to -408 are -24 and 17, and these add to give you -7. So that's what I'm going to write. I'm going to do it over here. I have 2x squared minus 24x plus 17x, get on task, minus 204. Okay, I'm going to divide these both by what? 2x. So 2x is outside. I get x minus 12. What can both of these be divided by? 17. That's a good guess because, guys, we want this to be x, right? Because they need a match. So put in your calculator -204 divided by 17. Just make sure you should get 12. Do you get 12?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so what is in parentheses matches? So I'm going to put that in 1. And then 2x and 17 will go in its own parentheses. So 2x plus 17. Now set them both equal to 0 and solve. Which one will give you a positive answer?
X equals 12.
Yes. X will give you, this one right here will give you x equals 12. So that's the one I'm going to pick. This one would give you a negative answer if you solve it. So guys, look. I know that the height of my triangle is 12. What would the base be? What's 2 times 12 minus 7? Perfect. So guys, my dimensions are, the height is 12 centimeters, and the base, oh, the question asks for the base. It says find the base. So the base is 17 centimeters. So this is our answer. It wants to know what the base of the triangle is. The base is 17. Okay, this question says, Ken has a rectangular shaped vegetable garden. So I'm going to draw my rectangle. Okay, and we know that it's 15 by 9 feet. So guys, go ahead and put your dimensions on your rectangle. The dimensions is 15 by 9 feet. Where should I put the 15? On the longer side. Okay, it says he would like to increase the length and width by the same amount, x. So guys, if I increase the length by x, what should I do? Good. Add x. Add x. So this is my new rectangle. So guys, I'm going to actually draw two rectangles. This is my new rectangle. Remember, the older one was this, 9 by 15. Can someone put 9 times 15 in the calculator so that I can find out what the area is? 135. 135 feet squared. Okay, so that's the area of the original triangle. When we increase the length and width by x, what does it say about the new area? It's twice, so we're going to double it. So what's 135 doubled? So now my new area is going to be 270 feet squared. So let's figure out what x was. To find the area, we do length times width, correct? So that means we're going to have 9 plus x times 15 plus x, and it should equal the new area, 270. So guys, solve for x. It's the same process that we've been doing. Look up and check when you're done. Did you guys find two numbers that multiply to -135 but add to 24? 15 and -9? Those don't work. All right, so guys, we exhausted our attempts. We could not find two numbers that worked. So we cannot do an eye chart. We're gonna have to use the quadratic formula. So A is 1, B is 24, C is -135. We're gonna plug that into our quadratic formula. X equals -b, so -24, plus or minus square root 24 squared minus 4ac all over 2. So guys, type into your calculators, what's 24 squared? Okay. 24 times 24. Minus, this will become a plus because I have two minus signs. What's 4 times 135? I shouldn't get any decimals. 540, perfect. Divided by 2. Let's continue simplifying. So guys, what is 576 plus 540? Okay, keep that number for me. I'm going to write it down. Okay, so we get x equals -24 plus or minus. What did you get? 16? 16 or 60. 16, thank you. Over 2. All right, guys, hit the square root button on your calculator. Let me know what you get. All right, guys, so we want the positive answer. So do -24 plus 33 points all of those numbers, and then divide it by 2. And that's your answer. So put into your calculator, -24 plus 33.4 divided by 2, because we want the positive answer. We're talking about length and width here. Okay, I'll just take this, 4.7, so that's your x value. And that's your answer, guys. So the key word here, find two consecutive, that means it has to be in order, positive odd integers. So for example, a consecutive positive integer is like 3, and then the next integer that's odd is 5. The next one after that is 7, then 9, then 11. Do you guys see how I'm going in order? That means consecutive. And I only use my odd numbers because that's what it asks for. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that my smaller answer, my smaller integer, I'm just going to represent it integer. I'm going to represent it as x, the smaller integer. And then the larger integer, guys, if I'm at my odd number, how did I get to the next one?
+2.
+2. So my next number is x plus 2. So that's how we're going to represent our two numbers. Okay, it goes up by 2 every time when we're talking about odd numbers. So this is my first number, this is my second number. Does that make sense so far? Okay, now let's look at the next part. So we're gonna find our numbers such that the square of the smaller integer. What do I do when it says square? Yep, you square the smaller one. Subtracted from, so we're gonna subtract x squared. Subtracted from 13 times, what's the larger number? X plus 2 is 68. And now we're just going to solve. So this is the square of the smaller number subtracted from 13 times the larger number. It says it in the problem. 13 times the larger number. Okay, now you solve. So this is 13x plus 26 minus x squared equals 68. I'm just going to put this in order, guys. The negative x squared should come first, then the 13x, then the 26. And I can move this over here. Okay, so this is negative x squared plus 13x. What's 26 minus 68? Thank you. Okay, now guys, I need to do an eye chart, but before I do that, you need to multiply all of these by a negative because I don't want my leading coefficient to be negative. So this will be positive, this will be negative, this will be positive. We do not want x squared to be negative. All right, guys. So I need two numbers that multiply to 42 but add to negative 13. Yep, so it'll be negative 6 times negative 7. So my factors are, okay, so we have x minus 6 times x minus 7. So if you solve, you get x equals 6 and x equals 7. I'm not going to choose this one because that one's even. And our problem says we want a positive odd integer. So 7 is odd, so that is our answer. So that means your smaller integer is 7. And the next one would have to be 9. So these are your integers. These are your positive consecutive integers, 7 and 9.